Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today we're going to have a bit of a discussion video, and I want to give you some examples. So I've got a couple of knives here that I would consider really nice EDC style knives, but I wouldn't consider either one of these hard use, heavy duty type of cutting tools. And so what I want to talk about is sort of the gradient that exists and how we sort of have to work our way up from something that's, passable. This Real Steel Metamorph, the G10 one here, Indiana Knives exclusive, really nice knife. I like this a lot, but this is not a heavy duty cutting tool. If I'm opening an envelope, if I'm, I've got this flyer here, this came in the mail today, this will cut just fine, right? There you go. So if I'm opening an envelope, if I'm cutting something up for my kids, that's fine. If I've got a cardboard, a clamshell package, this is the plastic from a clamshell package, hey, I'm still good to go, right? I've got no problem managing something like this with either one of these knives, okay? Not an issue whatsoever. All right, but as we kind of go up the scale, so let's move over to a piece of cardboard here, and a single ply of cardboard. Again, not a problem at all. Actually, this slides through cardboard very easily. But if we fold this guy up, now over here I've got about 5 layers of cardboard. I can still cut it, but it's not quite as pleasant. If I switch over to the Tuya here, again, I can make the cut, no problem, but it's not as easy. And you can see there I've got about 4 or 5 layers of cardboard. So at this point is where I might start looking to something like this, or something like this, where it's just a little more heavy duty. And if I've really got to bear down on this, if we fold this even one more time, there we go. Now I've created something a little thicker, and with the rat one I can get a pretty good cut on that, and my hand is pretty comfortable doing it. This is where a really ergonomic knife becomes extremely important. Okay, so let's see if we can still do it with this. Yeah, we can do it with the Real Steel, but it's already making me uncomfortable. Like, it just is not have the strength and ability that I'd want. Same with the Tuya. Well, it can do a pretty good job. It's got bearing pivots though, so I think that puts it in a slightly different class. At this point, these knives are all going to be pretty acceptable, along with many others. But what I like to do is find a knife that's a great balance between being able to cut that harder, heavy-duty stuff. So I guess we'll bring our cardboard back. So something like this 8010, man, it's comfortable in hand. It's got a hollow grind. And if I put it in a similar situation, man, it just bites right in. And that's partially because it's so thin behind the edge, and partially because I can get such a good grip on that great handle. Similar idea, well, let's see here. Similar idea with your Recon 1. Okay, so now we're getting into more heavy duty jobs. The nice thing though about the 8010 or the Recon 1 is that, well, a knife like this is great if you want to cut up oranges for your kids. Okay, man, works like a dream. Well, guess what? The 8010 slices just as well. By the way, isn't it great that this nice little plastic tonneau cover, back cover, truck cover works well as a cutting board as well. So look, it still works. And of course, if we go beyond, and so this is, the point I've often made about balance. I like a balanced knife. So if I'm cutting up an apple, no problem, I've got it covered. But if I'm cutting down a tree, I'm still good. Let me get something even a little tougher here. All right, so here is a squash. Now, I have often said that if you really want to test your knife, start cutting up a squash. It is a monster of a project. Now, the 8010 actually does a pretty decent job with it, but if we work our way down, again, if we go back down to the Real Steel, this is not the tool that I want to be using for this. It works okay, but it's not ideal, okay? And so, as we work our way through there, you can hear a little bit of wind. I hope that's not messing up the sound too much. And so I hope my point is being made, that as we work through various materials for various purposes, we're going to want different tools. Now I'm going to switch these out for some even heavier use, some even heavier duty materials that may require even the next step up in terms of what we're going to use to do our cutting. If you guys just give me 1 second here. Okay guys, so now we're getting to some materials that we may have to cut that are going to require something a little more substantial. Now a piece of wood like this, you can still, this is pretty soft wood, and I can dig in here pretty well with just about any of the knives that we have demonstrated. But if I had to cut all the way through this, that's not going to work, right? Now I'm going to have to look for something a little more substantial. And so maybe I would move my way up to something like this East Wing hatchet. Now, right, I'm not going to hit this too hard because I don't want to, I'm on my tailgate, but there you go. You can see if I needed to cut all the way through this, I could make pretty short work of that. Now, and that would also be true probably of this thin piece of aluminum. Yeah, I could probably make it through if I really needed to. At this point, actually, I could just bend it until it breaks. No big deal. However, if we get up to something like this is actually steel. So I'm not going to be cutting that so easily. Same thing is true if I go to this golf club, and you could have a need to cut a golf club off. Maybe you have kids like I do and they're kind of smaller. What else we got here? Oh yeah, this is a good example. Here is a pretty hard use cutting task. So I've got a big jug of protein powder here, and my Recon 1 actually does a pretty nice job with it. Hold on, I'm banging there we go. The Recon 1 does a pretty nice job of it, but if I had to cut through the base, it gets a little tougher, and I certainly wouldn't want to be messing with this guy down here. Yeah, that's not ideal, and that we haven't even touched on the lid yet, which I can cut with. Hold on. Yeah, I can do this, but I sure wouldn't want to. If I was going to cut this, now I'm going to be switching to a fixed blade. At this point, now I've got something I've got a little more confidence in, and I can cut into this pretty nicely if I need to, but I would prefer a knife without a lock on it. All right. Now, of course, guys, there's, pluses and minuses to everything, but there are alternate tools where we can even go beyond what we've demonstrated here. And so what I'd like to do next is, if you guys will bear with me, get something that can really do some heavy duty hard use cutting. Oh, one more thing I've got here. Hold on. There's a piece of aluminum. This was, of course, meant to be fascia, but now it's just going to be a cutting example. So all of this stuff, we're not going to want to cut with our knives. Probably be looking for a different tool, although you could score this and bend it to make your cut. So what we're going to have to move up to next is some slightly more substantial tools that can really, really do a job on some of these tougher materials. And we also, remember, need it to be versatile. So that's where we get into a bit of a challenge here. Let's say we go up to a full-size axe. Well, that's going to do the job pretty well for us. But if I get my orange back out, I'm certainly not going to be able to cut my orange. But I do know of a tool that can really be sort of the master of all of these different tasks. So the tool that I have in mind is mobile, especially with current technology, and it is one-hand operable, and I'll show you that in a second. And it can cut anything that you see here on the table in front of you, whether it be, this piece of aluminum from an old horse trailer, this electrical wire, our little aluminum pole, or even the steel pole. And just let me show it to you right now. I'll bring this in. I'm not going to be able to get it all in frame, but okay, there we go. So now we've got a tool that can really do some work. And it doesn't matter if you're cutting an apple or an orange or anything in between, you can get it all done using this guy right here. So first, let me demonstrate. It is one-hand operable. So if we come right down here, notice one thumb, just like the thumb stud on a folding knife. Bam, we open that guy up. And now we come back over to this side of our picture, and guess what? If I want to cut apple slices for my kids, it is not going to be a problem. Apple slices right up, and away we go. And look, if you've got two kids, there's 2 slices of apple, 1 for each of them. And now everybody is happy. Same thing with an orange. Pop that orange in there, and away we go. Now, one of the things you learn as you're using these is that you got to make sure you close the cutter all the way. And I can't tell you how many times I've been working on a scene and been working away with this cutter and not had that happen. So in addition to cutting apples and oranges, you know, we want to cut this golf club. Well, that is not even going to slow us down. As we said, one hand operated, and we'll just let that suck right in there, and away we go. Look at that, clean as can be. If your kid is a little shorter, you can cut that you can cut that golf club off without a bit of problem. What if, you know, you're doing some work on your trailer and you've got one of the components that's a little too long? Once again, not even going to slow you down. Just pop that guy in there, and quick as can be, she is cut right off. Again, now this is a couple of key things about this particular cutting tool. That is, it's good for everything. We've already seen that it can cut, let's grab a piece of wood here. We've already seen that it can cut metal. We've seen that it can cut fruits. We'll cut a squash in a second here. It can cut through a piece of wood. And look, this is a lot faster than sawing this off. You know, how long would you have to take to cut that off, even with, you know, a hatchet, where this just pops right through it. So if you're camping and you need to make some kindling or something like that, I mean, golden, right? Like, nothing is going to slow this guy down. Plus, if I back out a little bit here, I can show you this is mobile. So hold on, let's get over here. There we go. So you can see here's the battery pack down here, allowing me not to need to hook up to any hydraulics. As I said, one hand opening. It's even got a little flashlight here, so you know, you kind of killing two birds with one stone. And then come down here to the cutter itself, and we have, you know, hardened steel blades meant to just work and work and work, last absolutely forever. Let's do a couple more little pieces in here. This aluminum pole isn't going to even slow it down. This was, what happened was my wife got a little overzealous clearing snow off the car this winter and broke the head off this, so now we can use it as a demonstration piece. I'm not sure how to work on this wire, but we can sure find out in a second. Now, generally speaking, you want to be a little bit careful if you're cutting wire, but look at that. I've never seen a knife that could cut, you know, 16 strands of wire all in one shot. Let's see, we've got a metal rod here. We'll slide that guy in, and once again, nothing slows this down. And I don't think I have a knife in my collection that will cut that piece of metal as cleanly as that guy will. Now, the one thing that I said is a real challenge for just about anything to cut is, actually, let me clean this up just a second. Forget it. We'll just make it work. There we go. Move some stuff out of the way. You guys can forgive me just a little bit of noise. I'm the only one here, so I don't mind putting my hand inside that blade. If you were, of course, on a scene where there might be multiple people around, you would never, ever do that. But check out this. This is one of the hardest household things I can think of for cutting, and look at that. Everyone should really have one of these for their kitchen. It just slices that squash open, and a little bit of a spoon to clean that stuff out of the inside, and you are having squash soup in half an hour. All right, so there you go, guys. When it comes to hard use cutting tools, you know, convenience is important, utility is important, ability to carry stuff around is important, and versatility above all things. And as you've seen, of all the hard use cutting tools we've demonstrated today, this Hurst Jaws of Life is absolutely the best utility hard use cutting tool that has been devised by mankind. I mean, if you don't add one of these to your EDC, really, I don't know what you're thinking. And you know what? It costs less than your average Rexford Custom. So, I mean, it's actually not even a bad deal. All right, guys, listen, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments down below with some of your recommendations for hard use cutting tools. If you'd like to see some other things demonstrated here with the cutter, let me know, and I'd be happy to show you within reason, of course. There are some things, it does have some limits, so certain things I wouldn't put in here, but for the most part, I'm happy to oblige if you've got a question or comment down below. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.